Hey, do you remember when Star Trek was awesome? When everything was fun and the world seemed exciting and new? Well, these writers remember, and they're about to tell you. Oh boy, are they about to tell you. So, if you're ready for a roller coaster of nostalgia, stay tuned. Wow, wow, wow. Yes! Yes! About time. This is the episode I have been waiting for. This is what I've wanted from Star Trek Picard all the way back to season 1 of the show. This is what it should have been. There was smart dialogue, interesting character development, interesting and suspenseful plot points. There was moments of intrigue, moments of suspense, moments of brevity, moments of seriousness, moments of laughter, and moments where they were explaining things to you in a coherent way, and the plot moved in a coherent way. It wasn't all nostalgia and memory berries in this one, although they're leaned heavily on that in this episode. There's a lot of leaning on the past triumphs of Star Trek, and in certain ways it can be seen as celebrating the past and where the series and where the show and the sort of wider Trek has come from. And in other ways, it can be seen as a reminder of the glory days when things were just a lot better, generally, in sort of consistency. So, it's so much happened in this episode. There's so many things to unpack or to digest. I've got my notes with me, so I'm going to refer to these sometimes. So I do apologise if I'm looking down and around in this one. I'll try. It makes it less engaging, but I'll try just to keep my focus as much as possible. So let's start off with the bits I liked. The general plot of this was something we'd seen a mile away, but it's like it was a Star Trek heist episode where they're trying to break into the Daystrom station. They've realised that Worf and Raffi have come on board the Titan, and they're telling them that there's something stolen from the Daystrom station, which they don't know. The portal weapon that was stolen was all just a smokescreen for what they really wanted, and they can't find that out from the files that Rose gave them because it's all redacted. So they have to go on a heist. Now this is great. This is good stuff. This is kind of what Star Trek's all about. You have a situation which requires an intelligent solution, and an intelligent solution made up by intelligent people. So they go to the Daystrom station. Now there was a couple of wee bits when they were talking in the briefing room, which I thought was weird, and I didn't know if it was a joke or not, but Riker at one point turns to Picard and goes, "Excellent use of the word burgle, sir." And it seemed almost condescending, but also like he was genuine. It seemed very strange. I don't know if I'd missed something there. Now, this episode is so full of references to previous episodes that could have been one that I just went over my head. But it seemed very odd. But to the point where I rewound it and sort of watched it again to see, yes, that seemed, he did say that. If, given his age and his own rank, it seems kind of mocking. Had it been the same line said when he was first officer, it might have been more ass-kissing. So I didn't really understand what line they were trying to draw there, but nonetheless, it was fine. So the other thing which annoyed me, and it's a constant annoyance, so I don't even know if I need to bring it up anymore, but it's Raffi. Raffi was there, and even her presence is annoying. It takes away from all the other characters in the room, which I want to spend much more time with. She's just there, soaking up my attention, and I have to stop being so angry at it because it makes me not enjoy the show as much. But the writers here just seem so determined to make you think that Raffi is like a badass. They even give her this stupid leather jacket uniform to put on. It's like, how obvious can you be? Like, that's where your writing knows that they can't describe a situation or can't describe a character they can't give the character lines to say that portray her character, so they have to force it down your throat with visual representations, and that's not really what Star Trek is about. To me, Star Trek is a product of its age, in that when it was first on in the 60s or whatever, there was no money to make like mega special effects, so all your plot and all your development of characters had to be done verbally. Really, that's why you get the joke, basically, that in Star Trek someone says something really complicated and then another character right next to them repeats it in a way that we would understand. There's a great Futurama sketch on that, where he talks about filling up a balloon with too much air, and then Fry doesn't understand it, so he says it again for a completely the wrong situation. But it's like that. You say something super complicated, and then it's dumbed down to like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old. Now, it's not to say the audience is dumb, but it's to paint it in a way that everyone can understand. It's inclusive, and you get to understand the character. The advent of technology and more sophisticated computer graphics, and with audience expectation these days, and you could even argue that audience concentration levels being a lot lower than they are, audiences are saturated with a lot of stuff, everything has to be a visual explosion, and that is more catered to like people who they just want more action. Yeah, but Star Trek was never really about action, not to me anyway. Now I've got my opinion on it, and you guys have everyone else has their own opinion. So this is just on me. If I want action, I go to more Star Wars. Anyway, that's by the by. So they go to find the Daystrom station. Now here we get a explosion of nostalgia and Easter eggs, and I went through it a few times to try and pick them all up. But please, mention them below if you notice any that I have missed. So we first get in, and you have Riker, Raffi, and Worf. Again, I don't understand why Raffi's on the away mission. She brings nothing to the table, and again, just detracts from my enjoyment of listening to Worf and Riker have their good old back and forth like they did all the time in TNG. They had great rapport back and forth all the time with their complete opposite personalities. Worf is stoic and humble and a warrior spirit. He's very serious, whereas Riker is much more playful, much more sarcastic, and the two, back and forth bounce off each other really well. They tried to do that here, and then Raffi literally interjects in between them, and you just think, oh god, get out of the way, let these two have a moment to shine without you in it. Alright. So they're going through this station, and the things I noticed are they had the Genesis 2 device from Wrath of Khan, another nod to the Wrath of Khan. Was it Wrath of Khan? Yes, I think it was. The Genesis 2 device. There was James Kirk's body, his presumably frozen corpse, in some sort of suspended animation. Now, when I first looked at that, I thought, oh, that's a cool little nod, and it ties up to what they're going to come later. But also, that's horrifying. That Starfleet, although it's Section 31, it's still Starfleet, still the Federation, has sanctioned the grave robbing of a glorified hero, awarded. He'll have all sorts of awards. He's this hero. They've grave robbed him and frozen his corpse. This seems a bit of a horrifying statement. Anyway, it was a cool little nod. You got James Kirk, and then you get a lovely scene between Worf, and he's looking at this glass, and then up pops a treble. Now the trebles are this really bizarre creature alien which originate all the way back to the original series, and they have this. The Klingons and them have this weird, like, rivalry or weird thing. I can't exactly remember what it is, but I remember Worf being terrified of them. And it jumps up at the glass, and I think they were almost scarier when they were literally just like props of fur and they would replicate. They were like these. They're like Furbies. If you remember Furbies from the 90s, they're like Furbies. And this one is obviously more terrifying. It's got claws and squidgels as well. Does all that against the glass. So again, it's just super cool. Super cool little throwbacks to the past. Couple of things. So we're going through the station, and I predicted this with the AI protecting the station was either going to be Moriarty or Lore. Now, they do a bit of a bait and switch here, where Moriarty shows up, but it's not really Moriarty. And I liked that, actually. I thought that was good. I didn't think it would be right for Moriarty to be the AI guardian. I didn't think he wouldn't have been. Like, you would have to have corrupted him, like shackled him so much to I wouldn't understand why he would have been the guardian, what he would get out of it. But it was a bait and switch whereby Moriarty's chasing them down. We think it's Moriarty. It's certainly his hologram. There's a holographic crow, and there's this whistling or this tune being played slowly through the station. And Riker's listening to it, and he's recognizing the chords. So when they do eventually confront, or Moriarty confront them, he recognizes the tune, and he whistles it, and that was one of the best throwbacks to me, because I heard it and I could see it coming. I knew exactly what was coming. And you get to see a clip back to what I believe is the first episode of TNG, where Riker first meets Data. So he meets Data in the holodeck, and Data can't whistle because he's an android, and he thinks it's marvelous that humans can whistle. And that was your first introduction to Data and to Riker, and it was just that was a lovely throwback, because then you find out what both the AI is that's protecting the station, and what the AI's, it's actually the manifest, it's the computer that runs the station, is essentially a sort of hybrid of all the Datas and all the androids. You've got Data, B4 and Lore, and they're all kind of merged into one body. Now they do the classic Terminator thing, whereby they explain how Data has returned with an old sort of saggy man face, because he's got a positronic body like Picard's, and it's human. It's not explained overly well, but basically it's just a case of Brent Spiner's back as a sort of Data. Just let it go, and I'm fine with that. I will let that go. There doesn't need to be an explanation that works for everything, like, we understand we want the actor back, and we want Data back, so we'll accept that he's now got an old man face. Having said that, I'm starting to get a bit tired of Data dying and coming back. It makes all his deaths seem less significant. And when Data died in Nemesis, that was a big thing. That was him sacrificing for his family. And that was the most human thing that he could do, was to sacrifice his own life for his family. Now, right at the end of Nemesis, you discover that Data had transferred his entire consciousness onto the B4 android, which was the android before, that's clever writing, before Data. So Data kind of existed inside B4, but he never really materialized like that. And then we got Data from season 1 of Picard, where he died again, but that time he was just a program. So I'm glad that Data is back. It's not really Data anymore, it's a Data Lore B4 hybrid. But I'm glad that he's back, because it basically gives us, for the first time in goodness knows how long, essentially the whole crew is back together. We get a scene with most of the crew once they've escaped the station. You get they escape the station, but Riker sacrifices himself so that Worf, Raffi, and Data can escape. I was praying to God that they would maybe send Raffi to be sacrificed, but anyway. So Riker's captured. He's off with another group. So we get essentially most of the main crew back, because while all this is happening, we're over at the next huge member berries area, nostalgia area, which is the ship. It's a ship museum, but it's basically a ship graveyard, right? Where all these legendary ships go to be immortalized. And this is where I have to start picking up on little things. They're being chased by the Federation, the Starfleet Federation, and it's not clear, like, just how compromised Starfleet is. When we first came on, we were thinking, oh, there's a few high-ranking agents or high-ranking officers, or even a few low-ranking officers have been taken over, so Starfleet is kind of compromised. It feels like the entire Starfleet is completely compromised in this episode. Like, there are actual Starfleet ships working with the Shrike to find the Picard. So unless those ships are entirely made up of changelings, which at that point doesn't seem like they need to have the ruse of being part of the Federation, wouldn't the people who weren't changelings be questioning, why are we working with this ship to chase down Picard and Shaw and Riker and Shaw, who are active active captains in Starfleet? So that doesn't seem to make any sense to me. We may get more explanation on that later on. But so they're being chased by all of Starfleet, it seems. So they go to this ship museum, and they want to try and hide from the people chasing them. So Shaw, they go and decide to park themselves in one of the free spaces in the museum, and Shaw says, well, let's be a needle in a haystack. So many things wrong with this. First of all, there's only about 20 ships, right? So even if they had to search them one at a time, it wouldn't take them that long. Secondly, the ships have sensors, and it's repeatedly said over and over again, the ships have sensors. So in Star Trek all the time, you scan ships and you tell what it is, right? The ships would be able to find them in milliseconds if they turned up. So this hiding in needle in a haystack is just nonsense. They're getting the right concept of explaining what they're doing to people in a sort of coherent way. So I understand what they're trying to achieve. It just makes them all look stupid, because there's no way that they would be able to hide in this situation. You're trying to hide yourself. You're not even in like a ship graveyard. It's a ship of legendary ships. So all the ships are well known to everyone. But yeah, that was just by the by. So again, the ships that were on display here, some classics. We've got the Defiant from DS9, Voyager from Voyager, obviously, the original Enterprise A from the original series, the HMS Bounty, I think they called it, which is the Bird of Prey from Star Trek 2, I think it is. And I couldn't be certain, but I thought maybe the Enterprise from Enterprise was in there. I'm going to have to rewatch it again, so to see if it was in fact there. No replica of the Enterprise D, which I was hoping for. I was hoping there was going to be a replicated Enterprise D that they could take. Like, that could have been the way they went and got back onto the Enterprise. Like, they were at this ship museum, and then the Titan got destroyed, so they had to take another ship. What ship they're going to take? Obviously the Enterprise D. But no, alas, I think we're stuck on the Titan now, which there's still a few episodes left, so I'm hoping we get the Enterprise back, and it's the original bridge. That would, if you brought these guys back onto the original bridge with like its carpet and soft lighting that made you could see everything, I would lose my mind. That would be it. So there's some nice back and forth again from 7 of 9 and Jack, where 7 of 9 is talking about being on Voyager. And they're having this conversation about starships and about how Jack loved starships even before he knew Picard with his father. And 7 of 9 is talking about Voyager and how the crew became her family. And then you get the instant reversal of that statement when Geordie's talking to his daughter. So Geordie's obviously, I should say, Geordie's back. LeVar Burton, love Geordie. Geordie's back. So he is the caretaker, the commodore of this station. He comes on board with his daughter. Obviously his other daughter's already on board. So Geordie's a bit hesitant to help Picard. And I don't understand why. They explain it in a way, kind of explain it in a way, it's like where he has to look after his family. The whole of Starfleet has been told to track down these people, and Geordie doesn't give Picard the benefit of the doubt. Like, that just seems off character. He said, "It's like, oh, I'm protecting my family." He's like, but as the show is describing or trying to convey is that the crew become your family, and the crew of the Enterprise were definitely as close as family when we last left them. So to have this shift, and obviously he's got his real family now, like his daughters, which definitely take higher precedence. But it just seems out of character for Geordie to be so hesitant to help. And I called it back a few episodes ago. They were going to make Geordie out to be a super pushy or overly expectant dad that's driven his daughter away. Bullshit. I am calling that one out. It's not Geordie, it's her. She's the asshole. And there's another thing that they did in that same vein, and it irritates me no end. And this is not just Star Trek, but Geordie's sort of reluctant to help until his daughter, who's 22, 23, not seen or done anything really, but she's berating him for not helping out enough. He has literally saved the universe more times than she has probably been on a starship. This is the same bullshit that was done in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I hate it. I hate it. Stop preaching to the legacy generation, the actual characters, about how they don't do anything to help, when they're the ones who have sacrificed everything over and over again. They're the ones who know about what is needed and what needs to be done. They don't need you, some spoiled little teenager, moaning at them to get yourself into gear. I do not want Geordie's motivation to be, because my daughter told me off. I want it to be because, yes, this is the right thing to do. These people are my family as well, so I will help them. Anyway, these are just minor niggles, which I'm hoping stay minor niggles and grow into bigger ones. Because overall, this episode was fantastic. It's only surpassed by episode 4 slightly, and the only thing that brings it down is Raffi. Brings it down below is Raffi. I can excuse all the other bits of pieces, but I can never excuse her. Yeah, they make another big deal about Worf's pacifism here, which is not earned anymore. You can't do that anymore. You can't. He has murdered people in this series. Quite a few people. I think he's killed more people in one episode than he killed in several series of TNG. He was more pacifist in TNG because he would only fight people honorably. And in this one he killed 4 or 5 people. So he's not a pacifist. You cannot keep drumming that pacifist drum. And it's he's a pacifist for a Klingon. But they make he even says some stupid line we will be friendly energy. What does that even mean? And even Riker's I don't understand the world anymore. What is going on? If he was a complete pacifist, I would get it. it would be an interesting dynamic to the character, but they've shown that they'll completely disregard the pacifism element of his character now in order to like facilitate a small plot point that they need to get across. Like, they won't care about even the lore that they're generating. They won't care about it. They'll easily discard it. And you can forget about the lore from like the previous Star Trek and TG. They'll shit that out of nowhere. But they'll even disregard their own lore. So, like, to stay consistent. That's all I'm saying. I also noticed that Riker's staff ID hasn't been updated for several decades, it seems. When Data, or Data B4, whatever, is scanning the intruders, he comes across Captain Riker and it shows up his badge. Now, you could say that this is because this is Riker, what Data, or B4, remembers Riker as when he transferred himself into B4 before he died, but he'll have access to Starfleet's records. So he'll have been able to get the updated information. It's the same thing when he calls Jean-Luc Captain Picard. Now, he calls him Captain Picard because that's what Data called him, but I'm sure he would have access to the most up-to-date information knowing that he is Admiral Picard. So he would call him Admiral Picard. Or maybe he's going back because that's his familiarity and his brain's all confused. Again, I'll let that go. What else have we got here? God, there was so much to go on in this episode. And 90% of it was brilliant. Yeah. I liked Jack's character in this episode for the first time. I liked Jack's character. He starts off a bit whiny because he finds out that he's got some mental illness that's been passed on from Picard. He's got brain disorder. I can't remember the exact name of the syndrome. But he's got some he's got some medical condition. He's been passed on from Picard. And he's all mopey about it. He's like, well, Picard's like, well, I lived for decades without even realizing I had it. So you could be fine. And there's got to be more to Jack than just this disease. Because you never saw Picard going all John Wick and murdering people like without even breaking a sweat at random. So there's got to be more to it than just his disease. Now, how it connects to the changelings as well, I don't know. That's the mystery that's surrounding all this, because we find out what it is that they stole from the Daystrom station, and it was not only did they keep the corpse of James T. Kirk, they also keep the corpse of Picard. And is this what Fate Admiral Janeway and Captain Sisko have got for them? Like, was Archer in there as well? And Pike? So yeah, doesn't seem to be a great thing to be a captain in Starfleet. You get your corpse desecrated. But we found out that what they wanted was the corpse of Picard. For what end? Who knows at this point? We will have to wait and see. Again, the mystery deepens as to how Picard connects to the changelings. Speaking of the changelings, we get a bit more about Vadic. And it seems like they're set on destroying the Federation in order to get peace and silence again. So I'm wondering if the changelings have split because half of them didn't want to go back to living in peace with the Federation being out there, having used chemical weapons on them, essentially the biological weapons. They poisoned them and then bribed them with the cure to stop fighting. Seems very un-Federation-y, but they did that. So not the cleanest record for the Federation in this war. But yeah, we'll see. Vadic is growing on me more as a villain. She seems much more rounded and fleshed out now, rather than this sort of two-dimensional random cackling witch that was in before. So we'll have to see. Obviously she serves a higher master who we haven't met yet, or maybe we have, who knows. Changelings, could be anyone, but we'll see how her story progresses. But at the moment she's doing good. At the end she has revealed that she has captured Riker and Deanna Troi. So now basically at the end of this episode they're all in there, except for a few notable exceptions. Wesley's not there. Tasha Yar, the security officer, she's not here yet. Maybe she'll appear. Maybe she's the big bad. Who knows? So we'll see. But at the end of this episode, I'm hopeful about where we're ending up. We do get. See, I was talking about Jack there. Sorry. We get Jack's character shifts quite dramatically in this episode. He goes from that whiny little bitch at the start, and you know, you've been given us some sort of terminal diagnosis, so you maybe excuse him from being whiny for a little bit, but he's basically just a bitch at the start. And then after speaking with 7 of 9 about Voyager and the crew and the family and everyone wanting a connection, he kind of shifts and he becomes a more likable person. He comes up with a plot to take or steal the cloaking device from the bounty, the bird of prey, which definitely still works. Even though it's outlawed by Federation, you think they would maybe disable it, but they don't. So they take the bird of prey cloaking device, they go and plug it into the USB port of the Titan, but they put it in the wrong way, so it doesn't work. So Geordi has to basically get involved and fix it. And here's another example of where the writers don't even listen to what they've written themselves. So his daughter, who's the pilot, says all she wanted to do when she was younger was fly things. Geordi wanted to build things. She just wanted to fly things. And then 5 minutes later she says, the only reason I wanted to fly things was so I could crash them and we could build them back together. Which makes no goddamn sense. That makes no goddamn sense at all. But it's noted that she's a terrible, terrible pilot. Like, the first time Riker meets her, he recounts a moment where she basically crashed a ship. She's a terrible, terrible pilot. So why didn't she just become an engineer if she's actually good at that? It's just stupid. That's stupid. So Geordi goes and fixes the cloaking device so that it will connect into the Titan system. And that's Geordi doing what Geordi does best. He's finding an engineering solution to an improbable task and doing it brilliantly. And it's like, yes, this is it. We're getting there. One of the bits I did actually really, really like about this episode was when Shaw meets Geordi. Now, Shaw, if you remember, is an engineer at heart. He was an engineer. And it makes total sense that he admires Geordi way, way more than he does Picard and Riker. So he's geeking out with Geordi big time. He's even like sort of giggling like a little girl because Geordi's obviously one of his heroes. And that's like, yes, that fleshes out Shaw so much more. That little scene. So when they do it right, they can do it, these writers. But in that little scene where they flesh out Shaw meeting Geordi and he's super excited and giddy, means he's not just an asshole, like, for the sake of being an asshole. He has redeeming features, and he is actually a good captain. So he's not just doesn't just hate authority, because Geordi outranks him. So he doesn't just hate authority and people on the ship, but when he recognizes that Geordi is like probably one of his favorite engineers of all time, is right in front of him, and he's super excited about it. And I thought that was really cool. Shaw's growing on me every week, like as a good character. This is one of the characters where you add them and it works. It's brilliant. And the flip is obviously Raffi, where it's complete opposite. Every time she's on screen, I want to punch myself. Wow, so that was a lot to get through. I think that's as much as I can go on for just now without rambling on for hours. But the point is, we're at episode 6 now, and it's been shaky up until this point. There have been a few brief highlighted moments. Episode 3, episode 4, and this episode 6 have been good. And I'm saddened by that in a way almost, because I know this is coming to an end. Although there have been rumours and hints of a spin-off of legacy characters. I do not want to see the Next Generation Junior edition, with Jack, and I keep forgetting Geordi's daughter's name. But I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I want to see. Now, to be fair, this is for me, and I'm not a new audience member, so maybe new audiences, like who haven't seen or grown up with the Next Generation and Voyager, maybe they want this, and if they do it and they do it well, like they can, like Strange New Worlds is pretty good. Yeah, it's got no tension in it whatsoever because it's a prequel, and I kind of hate prequels because there is absolutely no tension in anything. I know exactly who lives and who probably doesn't, so there's like no tension there at all. But just please forget what Discovery is. Just forget what Discovery is. Let that die, and you can maybe try something new with these junior characters. But it's probably not something I'm going to be overly excited about. So I'm just happy to see the characters I love back together doing what they do best. And long may that continue. Please, if I have one wish, it's to bring the Enterprise D back. Somehow bring it back. And then I'll be a happy man. I'll forgive a variety of sins if and when that happens. But as always, if you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments below, and we'll have a conversation about it. And this is what Star Trek has always been about: opening up conversations with people from opposing points of view, and doing it in a way that is respectful. Yeah, and that's what Star Trek has always been about: looking at problems of the real world, opening up a conversation and dialogue about them. So let's just keep that up. But until next week, see you.